Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome into today's show. In a late night vote, senators voted to end the Democrat filibuster on the House-passed clean continuing resolution, which should lead to the government opening back up maybe sometime this week. We have the latest on this breaking story. Over the weekend, in a post on Truth Social, President Trump pledged to give every American, quote, a dividend of at least $2,000 per person. It would be paid out of what he calls the tariff revenue that's now pouring into Washington. We have what details are available on that. Also, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent appeared on ABC's This Morning and talked about the economic impact the shutdown is having and what we might expect in the fourth quarter. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy accused Senator Chuck Schumer of playing politics with air travel over the shutdown as flight delays plagued travel over the weekend and will continue this week as they try to ramp back up. And South Carolina authorities rescued 47 dogs, charged 4 men in a bust of alleged multi-county dogfighting. We have those details too.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills, but I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So, ladies and gentlemen, after 41 grueling days of government shutdown, counting today, the longest in our nation's history, the U.S. Senate finally voted late last night to break the Democrat filibuster on a critical funding bill. That means that we're one step closer to ending this madness and getting the federal government back open for business. But the way this all unfolded, the political theater, the partisan hypocrisy, and the sheer exhaustion of it all tells us something important about where Washington is today and who's actually fighting for the American people. So late last night, it was close to midnight. Did you stay up? I did, so you didn't have to. In one of those rare moments when you can feel the gravity of the chamber, the Senate reached that magic number, 60 votes, to end the Democrat filibuster. It was kind of interesting how it came about, too, as there was a long moment of pause. I mean, literally, they had the votes. They announced that they had the Democrat votes needed, and they were just waiting, and they were waiting. Staffers were running on caffeine. You could see just this activity. The vote was literally stalled at 59-40, and then we learned that Senator John Cornyn from Texas wasn't at the Capitol. I don't know where he was, hadn't found out yet, but he had been stuck at Dulles International Airport because, guess what? The shutdown-related flight delays. Finally, he made it back to the Capitol. He walked into the chamber. Just after 11 p.m. last night, he cast a decisive 60th vote. Cheers broke out. Senators clapped. You could almost feel the air lift in that room. Of course, there weren't many people in the room, as the senators who had already voted, they had already gone. It was a scene that reminded me of something Rush Limbaugh used to say, Washington only moves when it's cornered, when the pain becomes personal. And that's exactly what happened over the weekend. The shutdown started to hurt them. They could see what was happening to the American people. Not just you and me, not just air travelers or federal workers, but the politicians themselves. Suddenly that urgency to find common ground returned like a switch had been flipped. Now, finally, the tally 60-40. One Republican, Rand Paul, no surprise there, voted against the package, standing on principle, as he says he does. This is about a runaway spending and debt. And believe me, I respect that, but at some point you gotta get with the program. Here's the interesting part. 7 Democrats crossed party lines to vote for the bill. Among them were Dick Durbin, Tim Kaine, Gene Shaheen, John Fetterman, a group that sees the writing on the wall. Their voters are tired of the games. And then you've got independent Angus King from Vermont, who usually sides with Democrats. He joined in with the Republicans as well. Now, these are not small moves. It shows a crack in the Democrat wall. Cracks that open up when reality meets ideology. And let's not forget, this shutdown dragged on because Democrats refused to pass a clean funding bill unless Republicans agreed to reverse Medicaid reforms and extend the Affordable Care Act. The subsidies, that is. Now, as we've talked about before, at the heart of the impasse was or is President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, his signature tax and spending package that restructured how we handle Medicaid and trimmed nearly $1 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse. Democrats called it heartless cuts. The left-wing media called it slashing health care. But let's be clear, these were reforms designed to stop illegal immigrants and able-bodied adults who could work from milking the system. The One Big Beautiful Bill was about restoring fairness to taxpayers, the people who actually fund the programs, you and me who write the checks. Yet Democrats saw an opportunity. They tied the entire government's funding to their demand for ACA subsidy extensions and Medicaid spending. So instead of negotiating like adults, they shut down the government counting today for 41 days. Federal workers unpaid, airports in chaos, millions of Americans waiting on food assistance programs like the SNAP program, and now Democrats want to pretend they were the heroes who brought it to an end. Give me a break. And while this standoff played out, tens of millions of Americans on SNAP saw their benefits delayed or cut off entirely. This is the first time in history that's ever happened during a shutdown. The left's narrative, Republicans starved poor families. The truth, the administration said the money wasn't there because Congress refused to fund it. And a federal judge later overruled by the Supreme Court tried to force the administration to spend money it did not have. That's not how our Constitution works, folks. This is what happens when the federal government grows so bloated, so overreaching, that every budget debate turns into a crisis. The founders never envisioned a system where Washington controls every meal, every paycheck, every health care premium. But that's exactly where we are. And this shutdown exposed this. So what did this late-night compromise include? Well, the new stopgap bill, hammered out by Republican Senator Susan Collins and a handful of Democrats, will keep the lights on until the end of January. It includes a minibus, 3 of the 12 major spending bills needed to fund government operations. Those bills cover the legislative branch, military, construction, and Veterans Affairs, and the Department of Agriculture, which runs programs like SNAP and WIC. So for now, those critical services will stay funded through the entire year of 2026. But here's the real political kicker. Senate Majority Leader John Thune promised Democrats that there will be a separate vote on the Affordable Care Act subsidies sometime in December. You know what that means. Democrats got their promise. Republicans got the government open, and President Trump avoided giving in on the core of his One Big Beautiful Bill. It's a temporary truce, not a surrender. Now, the question is whether Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republicans will bring this deal to a vote. My bet, they will, because this shutdown has done what it's needed to do. Expose the Democrats' priorities and draw a line in the sand for fiscal conservatives. And right on cue, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, they're already spinning it. Sanders took to the floor warning that millions of Americans will see doubling and tripling of premiums without immediate ACA subsidies. Schumer said he's voting against the deal because it doesn't go far enough on health care. Let that sink in. After 41 days of shutdown chaos, after tens of millions missed SNAP benefits, after thousands of delayed flights, the Senate's top Democrat still refuses to vote for a deal that reopens the government because it doesn't fund Obamacare enough. This isn't governance. It's hostage-taking dressed up as compassion. And we all know that the Democrats aren't really compassionate. So let's just look at this. Let's step back and take a look. This is a turning point for President Trump's second term. His one big beautiful bill has forced Washington to confront decades of wasteful spending. For the first time in modern history, we're seeing a real debate about who deserves taxpayer help and who's been gaming the system. This shutdown, it's been painful, I admit, may end up helping the GOP define what fiscal responsibility really looks like. But Republicans have to be smart about it. They have to keep the message clear. This isn't about cruelty. It's about accountability. It's about making sure the safety net catches those who need it and not for those who abuse it. And we can figure out who they are. And yes, President Trump will need to do what he does best, communicate directly with the American people, cut through the media spin, remind folks that every tax dollar is sacred, and it's time for Washington that they remembered who they work for and who writes their checks. Hey, it's Joey Hudson. The holidays are here, and while most people are adding pounds, what if you could start 2026 feeling lighter and more confident? I lost over 30 pounds with PhD weight loss, and it completely changed how I think about food. My coach showed me what to eat, how to handle the holidays, and how to enjoy meals without guilt. At PhD, their metabolic reset system helps your body burn fat first so you lose weight naturally and you keep it off. No starvation diets, no crazy workouts, no drugs, just a smarter science-based system that actually works. And right now, for November only, PhD Weight Loss is waiving your consultation fee, adding 2 free weeks to your program, and even covering the cost of your food. Plus, just for booking, you'll get their free guide, 5 steps to reset the scale. Mention code 2026START to claim these bonuses. Get started today. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. And you can find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss. Feel amazing during the holidays and beyond. Air travel over the weekend was a challenge, as it had starting to be this past week. In a social media post yesterday, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy accused Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of, quote, playing politics. Of course, we understand that that's exactly what this is all about. It is politics. In the X post, Duffy argued that the New York senator had voted 14 times to keep the government closed. 14 times he refused to pay air traffic controllers, Duffy's post said. 14 times to keep Americans' flights delayed. 14 times to use public pain as leverage. And then he says every day gets better. Duffy also attached a video of a recent CNN clip where he explained his reasoning for reducing flights and air traffic controllers. He said, I look at data that came from the safety team, and the trend line is going in the wrong direction, so I need to take action and make sure that we keep people safe. In a November 7th X post, Schumer blamed Republicans for the shutdown and said the ball is in their court. Schumer wrote, Democrats made an offer to Republicans to reopen the government and extend ACA tax credits for 1 year. We're calling their bluff. Meanwhile, over 2,100 flights were canceled yesterday due to the ongoing shutdown and the FAA's recent order to scale back air traffic, according to the Associated Press. The cancellations, which impact 40 U.S. airports, were reported by the AP at 5 p.m. yesterday. The outlet also reported 7,000 additional delays on Sunday. More than 1,500 flights were canceled on Saturday as well, following over 1,000 flights that were canceled on Friday. So there's been a lot of pain with the travel. And even when the government gets reopened, it's going to take a while. It's going to take some days, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months to recover from this shutdown and what it has done to air travel. FlightAware data shows that among the 4 major air carriers, Southwest, United, American, and Delta had recorded the highest number of flights canceled nationwide over this past week. Atlanta-based Delta reported more than 800 cancellations, nearly 4,700 delayed flights. Meanwhile, Dallas-based carrier Southwest Airlines reported more than 493 cancellations, nearly 6,907 delayed flights. Now, former Republican New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu yesterday made a plea to air traffic controllers to keep showing up to work amid the government shutdown, saying that the national airspace really needs them. And that's been a problem. There's been a number of air traffic controllers who have just stayed at home now. They've missed a check, getting ready to miss another one, and I guess they're just thinking, hey, if I'm not going to get paid. I'm not going to show up and work. Maybe this will put a little added pressure on the politicians. Not sure what their thinking is, but I'm sure I would think the same way. Sununu, who is now the CEO of Airlines for America, appeared on Fox News to discuss how the ongoing shutdown, now in its 40th day, had prompted flight delays and cancellations. He said, if you're a controller and you're listening, we need you at work. Hopefully Congress does what they need to do to get the air traffic controllers paid. Sununu warned that air travel cancellations and delays may get exponentially worse as the week goes on, though encouraged Americans not to cancel Thanksgiving travel plans yet, with the hopes that this is going to work its way out. Transportation Secretary Duffy also yesterday warned that air travel across the U.S. will worsen. Again, this goes back to even with the government reopening, it's going to take some time to get things back on a more normal routine. Duffy made these remarks during an appearance on CNN State of the Union, and it's kind of chilling what he says about the number of air traffic controllers who are retiring every single day now.
I think the number is going to be substantial. Again, you look at the trend line, Jake, and it's only gotten worse as we've gone through the shutdown. We're day 40 now. And, we saw the largest number of outage of controllers was on Halloween, the 31st. Those numbers were 61. Yesterday it was 81. And the controllers that I've talked to said a lot of them, we can miss one paycheck. They told me that virtually none of them can miss two paychecks. And so they're going to be confronted with the idea of, as you mentioned, going to get a side job, a second job to make ends meet, to put food on the table, put gas in the car, to pay their rent. And a lot of these controllers who are young, Jake, they don't make a lot of money. They're just getting into the business of being an air traffic controller. So they make less than $100,000 and they live in a really expensive place. They're the single income earner and they have a kid or two at home. It's very challenging. Another problem I have, too, is, as you know, I'm short air traffic controllers. I'm trying to get more air traffic controllers into the towers and be certified, but I'm about 1,000 to 2,000 controllers short. And so I paid experienced controllers to stay on the job and not retire. I used to have about 4 controllers retire a day before the shutdown. I'm now up to 15 to 20 a day are retiring. So it's going to be harder for me to come back after the shutdown and have more controllers controlling the airspace. So this is going to live on in air travel well beyond the time frame that this government opens back up.
So you see what I'm saying? Just because the government reopens its doors doesn't mean that everything's going to get back to normal that quickly in air travel. So again, and I've been kind of warning you over these past couple of weeks that if you don't have to fly, really between now and the end of the year, because it could be the first of the year or later before we get back to normal. And see, this is what the Democrats just don't want to admit. This is causing long-term pain for Americans across the board. This disruption has had some of these air traffic controllers, again, probably many of them not planning to retire, but they went ahead and retired early rather than put up with the chaos. And we're going to be paying for that for some time to come. It was a busy weekend for President Trump. The president added another stadium stop to his long list of public appearances over the weekend, this time at the heart of NFL country. Yesterday, in typical Trump fashion, he rolled into Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland to take in the Washington Commanders versus Detroit Lions matchup. And yes, it was part of the NFL's Salute to Service tribute to our veterans as we celebrate veterans this week. He flew in straight from Florida after a morning on the golf course, which honestly at this point feels like his personal Air Force One runway. But once in D.C., Trump jumped into game mode, complete with a motorcade that had all eyes on it. It was quite the commotion around the stadium. Now, here's where it was also interesting. The president was reportedly sitting with Commanders owner Josh Harris, who he's the same guy working with the White House and city officials to try to get a brand new stadium built on the old RFK site. And word is that President Trump wants the new stadium named after him. Have you heard this? ESPN's reporting it, that it came through an intermediary. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, did not deny it. In fact, she called it, quote, a beautiful name. I mean, let's be honest. This is vintage Trump. Golf in the morning, stadium flyovers in the afternoon, and a shot at putting his name on a national monument by nightfall. If that stadium gets built and ends up being called Trump Field or Trump Stadium or whatever they call it, just imagine the media meltdown that's going to happen. Just imagine the Democrats melting down that he has his name permanently affixed to a brand new, big, beautiful stadium there in the nation's capital. And yes, Air Force One gave fans quite the show during the first quarter, a flyover that Trump himself hyped up beforehand, calling it the greatest flyover ever. You could practically hear him saying it before it even landed. Commander's leadership was all in on the visit, we're told. Team President Mark Klaus said that they were honored to host the president and framed it as part of the broader tribute to our armed forces, saying proud to participate were the words that he actually used. And here's a little historical nugget here. Trump is the first sitting president to attend an NFL regular season game since Jimmy Carter did back in 1978. Not a Super Bowl. A lot of them have attended Super Bowls. Not a military ball game, but just a regular season showdown. And that's pretty interesting. That's pretty significant. President Trump, of course, has made sports a central piece of his public image. He loves to go to these things, from the UFC to NASCAR. He was at the U.S. Open, remember? He went to the Ryder Cup. And even showing up for the Steelers' Sunday night game last year on the campaign trail. The guy knows where supporters are. And the football fans seem to love knowing that the president was in the stadium. And more importantly, he knows the president knows how to show up on camera too, because he managed to be shown a number of times. So love him or hate him, one thing's clear: President Trump isn't hiding behind the resolute desk. He's not going to bed early. He is in full. I mean, think about his schedule. And we watched for 4 years. Joe Biden could barely get around. His public schedule was virtually zero. He'd go to the beach on weekends. We wouldn't hear a thing out of him. Occasionally, the White House would release a photo of him sitting and reading on the beach. But you got Trump playing golf in Palm Beach in the morning and going to an NFL game at night. I mean, really, and doing this flyover. This has to be one of the most Trump-esque salute to services. And look, our veterans are important, and that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow, is recognizing our veterans. The president just got a bit of a jump on us. Also, over from the White House over the weekend, in a post on Truth Social early yesterday morning, President Trump pledged to give every American, and I'm quoting, a dividend of at least $2,000 per person paid out from what he's calling the tariff revenue that's now, in his words, pouring into Washington. He wrote, "People who are against tariffs are fools." That was in all caps, by the way. And he said the tariffs his administration has imposed on foreign goods have brought in trillions of dollars, with 401ks at the highest ever and no inflation. Now, the president did not go into detail about who would qualify or how the payments would work. His Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, though, was asked about the rebates on ABC's This Week.
Do you have a formal proposal to give a $2,000 dividend to every American?
I haven't spoken to the president about this yet, but it could. The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
All right, so did you get the idea that the Treasury Secretary may have been caught off guard a bit on that? Because he really didn't have a clear answer, did he? And look, he admitted that he hadn't talked to the president about the $2,000 dividend. But it kind of tells you just how President Trump operates. He doesn't necessarily sit around in cabinet meetings bouncing these ideas off. He comes up with the idea, then he kind of floats a trial balloon and then waits to see what the response is and starts working it out within the administration. I mean, either way, this is a bold move, and it's got Washington buzzing because it comes right as the Supreme Court is questioning whether President Trump even has the legal authority to impose many of these tariffs in the first place. Just last week, the court heard oral arguments in a case challenging Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the law his administration has used to levy tariffs on nearly every country on the face of the earth. Conservative justices pressed hard on whether those emergency powers are being stretched too far. If the court rules against the administration, Trump could be forced to roll back the tariffs and, more disturbingly, even refund billions of dollars to importers. Make no mistake, this tariff fight isn't just about trade. It's about Trump's broader vision for America's economy. America First manufacturing, energy independence, using tariffs as leverage not just for revenue, but for diplomacy. He used these same tools to pressure China, to renegotiate trade with Mexico, and even to squeeze Iran and Russia economically. And now he's framing it as a dividend for the American worker, turning global tariffs into what he calls a reward for patriotism. Now, again, as far as the tariffs go, we're just in a wait-and-see situation. Wait to see what the Supreme Court decides. If they uphold President Trump's tariff authority, those checks, or whatever form the dividend takes, could become a defining piece of his economic legacy. If they strike it down, this whole plan could evaporate overnight. And again, we could be returning these billions of dollars. Also, the Treasury Secretary admitted that the shutdown is hurting the economy. We know that. But with a slowdown in imports and other things, he's saying that this could affect the entire fourth quarter and beyond.
We've just heard about all these impacts from the government shutdown right now. Are we starting to see a permanent impact on the economy?
Sure, George, and good to be with you. And we've seen an impact on the economy from day one, but it's getting worse and worse. We had a fantastic economy under President Trump the past 2 quarters, and now there are estimates that the economic growth for this quarter could be cut by as much as half if the shutdown continues. And what your correspondent didn't talk about there, George, was there's, of course, the human cost, and we're going to have the busiest travel day of the year, the day after Thanksgiving. And Americans should look to 5 Democratic senators to come across the aisle to open that. But on the other side, there's also cargo is being slowed down. So, we could end up with shortages, whether it's in our supply chains, whether it's for the holidays. So, cargo and people are both being slowed down here, and that's for safety's sake, George.
And this is what we just have to be aware of now and think about. And it's what I was talking about earlier, is even when the government, when the doors are back open, which I think we're seeing that now. When they're back open, it's going to take some time, but some damage has already been done. This fourth quarter's economic forecast is not looking good, and let's just take shipping and some of the imports. Those have been delayed. They may be sitting in a port someplace else, and it's going to take a while to get them scheduled and back in the process of getting to the States, which means we may see some renewed inflationary issues here too with some goods. If the supply is decreased and the demand goes up during the holidays, we could see some issues with inflationary pricing as well. So we'll see. But just because the government reopens doesn't mean things are going to change overnight. We're still going to have some more pain before this is all over, and we can blame that on Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. All right, folks, winter is here. Temperatures began plummeting last night across the country, and particularly in the Carolinas here. Today in the upstate of South Carolina, we're going to see mid-30s. It'll be in the 20s in the western North Carolina mountain area. Wind gusts are expected to reach around 30 miles per hour throughout today. And this colder air is going to be sticking around. The highs will only be in the 40s today, we're told. The coldest temperatures will be tomorrow morning, though, with a widespread hard freeze expected. Lows in the upstate will be in the 20s and teens up in the mountains. So bundle up and check on all the things that you normally do when you winterize your house. Make sure those outdoor faucets are covered. And if you know someone, an elderly person, check on them. Make sure that their heat is working properly. You may see some snow in some of the higher elevations as well. Remember the 3 Ps. Pipes, protect from freezing. Pets, bring them indoors. People, check on those vulnerable neighbors. A freeze watch is in effect from starting tonight through tomorrow morning. Frost and freeze conditions could kill crops, other sensitive vegetation, and possibly damage unprotected outdoor plumbing. So again, just do the things that you typically do when you know that we're going to have some freezing weather, possible snow, and just check on those furry friends and check on those elderly friends as well. Wow, what a disturbing story. And you guys know how much I love pets. Jesse and Simon are just a big part of our family and our daily lives. And when I see stories about animals being mistreated, it just breaks my heart. Humane World for Animals assisted state law enforcement with alleged dogfighting situation in Chester County over the weekend. So here's the story. State authorities, the state law enforcement division, their dogfighting unit, assisted Lancaster and Chester County Sheriff's Offices and the nonprofit Humane World for Animals to put a stop to an alleged dogfighting ring in Lancaster and Chester counties. SLED Chief Mark Kill, in a statement, said the State Law Enforcement Division's dogfighting unit continues to aggressively pursue anyone who is involved in this illegal activity in South Carolina. This most recent operation resulted in the rescue of 47 dogs that were taken out of a cruel and abusive environment, he said. Authorities filed animal cruelty charges, including animal fighting or baiting and ill treatment of animals against 4 men in the coordinated investigation. Humane World for Animals, formerly the Humane Society of the United States, new name there. I wasn't aware of this until this. They took all 47 dogs in for veterinary treatment, according to the report. The name change, which occurred in February, was made to reflect the broader scope of the nonprofit throughout the U.S., we're told. A veterinarian said several dogs had infected puncture wounds consistent with dogfighting. Others were underweight to the point of their skin sinking into their ribs. Many were infested with fleas. Wow. Again, it just breaks my heart to think about these poor animals being treated like this by these bunch of goons up there just for dogfighting. Investigators said that they found several pieces of dogfighting paraphernalia, such as treadmills used as a conditioning tool, and what appeared to be a broken-down fighting pit. Humane World officials said that they also found a female dog nursing 3 puppies. Humane World for Animals assisted in this. Despite the evidence of abuse, the dogs were receptive to the strangers who stepped in to rescue them, according to their reports. Janelle Gregory, the South Carolina State Director for Humane World, said it's rewarding to see them start to wiggle and give kisses as we get them to safety. And that's what really just upsets me, because these dogs, all dogs, they just want to be loved. They just want to be fed and cared for. And they return that, many times over. And so when I see these stories of this abuse, it just upsets me and just breaks my heart to think about these poor dogs in this condition. Now, according to SLED, they took 4 men in Lancaster and Chester counties into custody. De'Ara Charles Talford, 33-year-old, for 7 counts of animal fighting or baiting, 2 counts of ill treatment of animals, criminal conspiracy, possession of a firearm, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and several charges beyond that. Devin Dashaud Mobley, 32, for 10 counts of animal fighting or baiting, ill treatment of animals. Zion Demur Hairston, 22, for 10 counts of animal fighting. Nikos Kendrell Little, 37, for 8 counts of animal fighting or baiting. Federal authorities, including Homeland Security and the FBI, also assisted in the investigation. So let me ask you, what is the appropriate punishment for these men? I hope whatever the law allows for the animal cruelty charges, I hope they get the maximum sentence. Now, I don't have a clue what that is, but I hope that they end up spending some time in jail. They're given a chance to think about what they did to these poor animals and how they treated them. And hopefully, as word gets around, that this will be a deterrent of people in the future. I mean, you remember a couple of years ago, they had SLED did similar raids. And I thought that they had shut down all these types of operations. But evidently, there's still people out there who think it's funny, or I don't know. What do you get out of seeing dogs fight? I don't quite understand that. I mean, I could not enjoy sitting there seeing 2 dogs fight. And look, these animals, they train them to fight to death. And they just literally tear each other apart. So why would you enjoy that? Maybe if you know something about this, or you can help me understand this, text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. I mean, I've just never. It's the same thing with like chicken fights, with the cockfights. I've never understood that. I've never understood why people would stand around a caged-in area to watch animals kill one another. You just have to have a certain mentality to enjoy that. To enjoy seeing these poor animals fight for their lives. Look, what they should do, maybe this is an appropriate punishment. I ask you how they should be punished. Maybe we should just put these 4 guys in a cage, and we can all gather around and watch them fight. Let them fight one another. Whoever can fight their way out of there gets freedom. They don't have to go to jail. Otherwise, you got to go to prison. That's probably not going to go over too well. But I mean, really, I don't get it. But thank goodness that, and I don't know how they found out about this. I suspect somebody tipped SLED off. But thank goodness for Humane World and all the law enforcement agencies that were involved in this, that they took this seriously. That they understand that you just can't allow this type of thing to go on. And yes, it is a crime. It is against the law to have dog fights, to have cockfights in South Carolina. So kudos to SLED, kudos to Humane World, kudos to the Chester and Lancaster Sheriff's Office, everybody who is involved. Thank you for stepping up and helping these poor animals, and of course the Humane Society or Humane World. They're going to have some help in getting these dogs back in shape, and hopefully find them new homes. Find a new home for them. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.